Welcome to Flow with Freddie. Today's practice, we're working specifically with a meridian point on the body. Now, if you have explored acupuncture or tapping or even yin yoga, you might be aware of these meridian lines, as they are named, or the qi, which is in Chinese medicine what they name our energy. Now, this flow is really inspired by a bout of heat that we have experienced in the country, which is fairly unusual. So to provide with possibly a really accessible tool in your kit to take away with you. So if you didn't have time for a 45-minute yoga practice, you would have this in your back pocket that would help to not only expel heat and dampen excess heat from our vessel, our body, but also this acupressure point that is right on the outer edge of the elbow there. Think of when you bend your arm and you find the crease. You run your finger or your thumb along that crease to the outer edge of the elbow, and it's named the large intestine 11. Large intestine 11. And it has a nickname, pool in the bend. It's that pool, it's that diving into that fresh water when you're really hot. And it can have this wonderful calming effect on the central nervous system. So a little bit of stimulation we're starting with to this acupressure point. Now, you don't have to do both sides. Doing one would stimulate the qi in that meridian line on both sides. But what I will say is that we do this for about 2 minutes, is about the magic amount of time to really redirect the energy through the energy lines. So if you're experiencing what might feel like cramp in between the finger, index and thumb, you can, of course, switch sides and find that point, outer crease of the elbow on the other side. So let's hold it here for just under 2 minutes, and you can either hold static pressure, sort of like your arms in a sling, or you can stimulate just by going for little circles, is the word I'm looking for. Clockwise, anti-clockwise, and the circles are nice. Just if you're a little unsure as to whether you're in the right area, you kind of be covering a little more surface area, and you're most definitely going to be targeting that meridian point. So, holding here, shoulders soft away from the ears, and as we hold here, because it's not too complex, we could start to check into the breath. So I'd like you to find a comfortable seat if you're not there already, or you need to change your seat. Maybe you're leaning up against a sofa. But could you allow the crown of your head just to lift your spine? And as you breathe out, find your 2 sit bones really grounding you to the earth. Long breath in. Deep breath out. Option to change the side that you are compressing. It's our personal ventilation system, this point in the body. Breath in, breath out. So I've introduced this point at the start of the practice, and we are actually going to be peppering into the sequence more compression to this point. So remembering that point of access. So think of it as almost sort of your bicep area where you've got that crease. And we'll be finding that a little bit later on in the practice with a few little binds. So releasing that large intestine 11 point, if you are holding it with me. And we're just going to firework the fingers, and this will help just really get the blood pumping through the extremities, the fingers, forearms. And I'm just taking the backs of my nails against my thumb, flicking, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you might find that it actually feels quite intense in the forearm. So we're just going to go for a little doggy paddle of the wrists, flicking the wrists. I know it looks silly, but it can feel quite freeing. For 2, and for 1. And then go ahead and lie down. Now, it's useful for the practice, if you have a yoga brick, to have at least one. It's good to have 2, but if you don't, then maybe a thick coffee table book would work quite nicely. You can get inventive with maybe a water bottle you could sort of use as a little bit of a stand or between the shoulder blades. You'll see that coming up a little bit later on in the practice. So, lying your body down, and you're extending your left leg long, pulling those left toes back, drawing the right thigh into the chest. So my left toes are active, my right toes are floppy, and then we're just going to start to draw the thigh a little bit closer in without picking the head up from the earth, dropping the shoulders down. Deep breaths. Feel the connection of maybe thigh to the lower abdomen. Maybe you feel that compression in the lower back. Pelvis heavy. Starting to introduce this stirring of the right ankle, taking it whatever way you choose first. It might be clockwise. It might be anti-clockwise. Switch to go the other way. Just really embracing any little clicks and cracks that might be going on there. Make that your last circling of the ankle. And then keeping your right knee bent here, I'd like you to plant your right foot down just to the right side of your mat. So I'm not on the edge of the mat. I'm actually popping my foot just outside of the mat. The arms sweep open to a T shape. Palms are up to the sky. Now, we're taking the right knee in the direction of the end of the mat. So we're internally rolling the thigh bone. Internally rolling the thigh bone in. Maybe you're walking your right ankle a little bit further out, and that will give yourself a little bit more space to maybe allow the thigh bone and the knee to drop down toward the top end of your mat or the lower end of your mat. Soften your left foot. Allow your limbs to hang heavy, bones heavy. Breath in through your nose. Breath out. Imagine your shoulder blades separating, melting down to the earth. This can feel quite strong. If you'd like a little more, we start to work into the shoulders. So bending your right elbow and the palm of your right hand may or may not touch your right shoulder. You want to keep the contact of your palm, grazing it down and across the collarbones, drawing that line all the way along to press into the front or the head of your left shoulder. Keep going, pressing into the inner bicep, inner crease of the left elbow. And as you're trying to draw your palms to palm, leaving your head down to the earth, you're going to notice this right hip lift and the right buttock lift off. It's like you're trying to stack right hip maybe over the top of the left hip, and maybe this right thigh just hangs heavy. We're moving earthbound here. We hang out on the left side here. And then we reverse. So an inhale, right palm to the inner left elbow, left shoulder, across the collarbones, right shoulder, and then open up the chain of the arms. So the backs of the hands kiss down to the earth. The palms are shining up to the sky. Your neck is wonderfully neutral. Go again, right hand, right shoulder. Really drawing that strong line, this sense of expansion. We go to the inner elbow crease. Maybe palm meets the palm. Feel the weight into the left side of the body. Let the bones draw you down, earthbound. Inhale. You're going to release that chain and open up the body Back of the right hand all the way down to the earth, palms shining up to the sky. Coming to your cradle pose, so this beautifully simple pose. Though we draw the thighs in, and it's almost mimicking child's pose, but in reverse, flipped on its back. So you could have your thighs together. There could be a small parting. We're ideally holding the shins, the knees, without the head picking up. So lengthen the back of the neck. Encourage your chin to drop down in toward your breastbone. Option to stay here and start to stir the knees, almost like you're drawing circles on the ceiling. And that might be really wonderful, just introducing this compression to the lower back, almost like you're trying to iron out any creases, any pockets of tension. If you would like, you're going to keep the thighs drawn directly into your belly, and then picking up your head, almost like you're dropping chin to chest, squeezing a peach. You might peel up your shoulder blades, land your forehead to your knees, and then an exhale to roll that all the way down. Inhale, forehead to knees. Exhale, releasing that down. From your circles or your chin and head, lift and release. We're going to take that right leg all the way long. Keep the left thigh drawn into the belly. Pull your right toes back, toes to sky. Hands might interlace over the left shin. There's a feeling of hugging toward you without forcing in this left hip. Notice if your hips are perhaps surfing to the left. This can happen if we're hitching the hip up. Can you think about getting long in your left rib and long in your right rib? Stirring through that left ankle, you might already be there. Long breath. We come back to the breath. The breath bringing us back to the home of the body. Switching direction that you're rolling the ankle there. Great stuff. Now we take the knee still bends, but that left foot moves to the outside of your mat. Your arms splay open to your T-shaped palms up. Soften right toes. Think about the thigh bones almost trying to meet. So we drop the knee forward, and it might mean there's a little shuffle of this left ankle out further, further, further. So you provide a little bit more leverage, a little more space there for the thigh bone to really internally rotate through the hip socket. From here, it is your left hand to your left shoulder. You're going to draw that line across your chest. It's almost like you're pressing into the front of that right shoulder. Really glue the shoulder blade down to the earth. We keep rolling. We keep moving. That left hip, left buttock lifts, and we roll all the way to the right side. Right temple gets a little pressure into the earth as your palms meet. And then inhale, we go all the way back. Opening up that line, think expansiveness in the chest. Again, hand to left shoulder, over the collarbones, right shoulder, inner elbow, wrist, palm to palm. Allow that left bone, left knee to drag it down to the mat. Just exploring where that might like to go, or might not like to go. And then you inhale, bringing that all the way open. Palms shine up to the sky, shoulder blades almost cemented down to the earth here. From here, let's bring the thighs into the belly, but this time we're bringing it into happy baby. So think about stamping your feet to the sky. You keep the knees bent. It's almost as if the knees are drawing in toward your armpits. Hold the outer edges of the feet if the arms will allow. You might be holding the inner heels. If your tailbone's starting to pick up, it's a nice indication that maybe gripping a little lower down the chain of the leg is more intelligent for your practice, and it's going to provide way less stress in the jaw and the neck. Head stays connected to the earth. Wherever you are, you might welcome in a little rock, side to side, targeting that midsection at the back, that thoracic spine. Maybe the eyes are invited to close down, and this might just soften the tongue in the mouth. You might turn up the corners of the mouth and have a little smile to yourself. From here, let's take the legs long and bring the arms all the way up overhead. Now, I've just reminded myself, make sure that you don't have any water bottles that you might be kicking out of the way there. Bringing your right index finger, right thumb, like a loop around that left wrist. Now, locking almost these elbows, so we're squeezing the biceps to the ears. You've flipped the left palm away from the crown of the head, and we're stretching through the legs. You're getting as long as physically possible. Start to walk your legs over to the right top hand corner of the mat, crossing the left leg over the right leg. It's in effect anchoring down that right leg. You then might look up to the left, pull onto that left wrist and bring your upper body over to that right side. Concentrating on your buttocks, cemented to that mid space of the mat, and your shoulders, especially that left one, grounding down to the earth. And as we're here for a few more breaths, maybe you're thinking about where you might like to direct that breath in the body. Is there a little pocket of tension that could really do with an extra bit of space, an extra bit of attention? And then unhook your ankles. Walk your legs back to the center, arms to the center, and you switch sides. So left index finger, left thumb loops around the right wrist. Palm of the right hand flips away from the crown of the head. Squeezing the biceps to the ears, start to walk your feet off to that top left hand corner of the mat. The right leg hooks over the top of the left. There can be a bend in this right knee. That's not a problem. Maybe you're looking up to the right side, but it does not have to be. You pull onto that right wrist and you're trying to move your body into that beautiful banana shape. Banana asana is the pose. Back body is stuck down to the earth. Go for a few more breaths here. Expansion, space, life force. And unhook the ankles. Walk the legs to the midline. And you're just going to release the arms down by the sides of the body. We pick up the knees over the hips. Wrap the right thigh over the left thigh. Now there's a choice here to either go into your eagle bind, tucking top of the right foot behind the left calf muscle, knees track over hips, or depending on what's available leg lengthwise, you could squeeze your shins together, almost like your legs have been shrink wrapped. We're then taking the right arm underneath to form an X, right under left. Bend at the elbows, wrap the forearms, wrap the wrists, and we're pressing the forearms up to the ceiling, away from the heart space. From here, exhale to pick up the shoulder blades, much like we did before. Elbows maybe touch the knees. Inhale, pressing the arms over the space of the head, maybe tapping that left toe down to the earth. Draw the navel back to the spine. We go for 3 more. Exhale, it's a little more fiery. Inhale, open that stomach line. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. We'll do one more for luck. Inhale. Unwind the arms. Unwind the legs. I like a good shaking off of the feet. Imagine you've got water droplets on your toes and you're trying to kick those off. Ooh, really getting the most out of that one. And then your knees stay bent, your feet plant down to the earth, and you're going to lift your left arm up by your ear. Roll onto your left side. The head lands on the arm. You can just guide this right hand down in front of you, stacking thigh onto thigh. It doesn't have to be anything specific down here. Taking your right hand onto your shoulder, it can feel a little bit tricky, this one, and you just want to take these circles. Almost like you're stirring a pot here, or the elbow point is the nib of a pen. So how indulgent can you make these circles and then go the other way? Right hip stacking over the left hip, really giving that left temple almost this little bit of acupressure actually. Little temple release or myofascial release. Head is on the arm. Now inhale, reach the right arms up and feel weightless, almost like you've got a puppeteer's string attached to this middle right finger, or your shoulders just lifting a little bit higher. You're less collapsed in this undercarriage. You might even get a little bit of space, a little bit of a gap there. Head is pressing maybe into that left arm. We bend that right elbow and the back of the hand slides to the small of the back, and maybe those right fingers, you might be able to see them there in the recording, they just thread to the small of the waist. So my elbow is bent and I've wrapped my right arm behind the back. We then roll onto that arm. Bend the knees, plant the feet about hips width distance, and then this left arm down by the side of the body. My right fingers are now available to hold that acupressure point, that pull in the bend, outer edge of that left elbow. And the left fingers are just relaxed. We press into the feet, root down into the heels, tuck the tailbone. Imagine here you've got a balloon between your thighs. You don't want to pop the balloon, nor do you want those knees to wing out and you drop it. So you could have a little glance to the thighs. Are they mimicking a number 11? Press down into the arms. Think of the shoulder blades almost pinning together here. A little bit of work in that posterior chain. There's one more breath here. Bridge pose. And then taking your bind, your fist, could you tuck the shoulders beneath the chest space? Maybe walk the heels a little bit further in. Keep the gaze up to the sky. Maybe a little more height. Breath in. Breath out, arms away from underneath you. Roll down your mid-back, your lower back. Yes. And then let's take a variation of our happy baby. So you can return to this one. Or you might draw your heels in toward your pubic bone, soles of the feet together, and you're wrapping your fingers around this blade edge of the feet. So there's a little bit more compression to the inner thighs, knees are out. And you might go for that little rock there. That might feel really nourishing. A little bit of respite, perhaps. One more breath. In. And out. And then we come back to a little more tapas, this burning concentration. So eagle with your left leg over your right. Knees track over hips. Squeeze the shins together or tuck top of the left foot behind the right calf muscle. The arms cross. It is left arm under right. You wrap the forearms, you wrap the wrists, and you're really trying to press your forearms up to the ceiling. Exhale, elbows to knees, chin to chest. Inhale, tap the toes without letting the lower back pop off the floor. We draw the navel back to the spine there. Exhale. Inhale, navel back to spine. Exhale, inhale, reach the arms as tall as you can. Exhale, inhale, just touching the toe once more. Inhale, and then allow the arms to unwind, allow the legs to unravel. They stay bent, the knees. The feet plant down, this right arm reaches up. I'm then going to roll onto my right side. Right ear, right temple takes to this right arm, and I'm stacking left thigh over the right thigh. Nothing too specific here. Left hand to left shoulder, start to draw with your left elbow point. These circles, they might start off quite subtle. They might get a little more generous, a little more indulgent, then go the other way. There might be certain sticky or stagnant areas. Just staying really curious to your experience on the mat today. Last one here. We breathe in, lift your left fingers and imagine that you're sort of lifting a little bit those right ribs off the earth. So I'm pressing a little bit into my right hip. My head is pressing into the arm and I'm reaching through the left line of the arm. And then exhale, left elbow bends. Can we wrap Arm behind back, maybe sliding back of the hand, fingers to and through the small of the waist. Take an inhale, you're going to roll onto the back of the forearm. Feet are hips width distance. Feet are plugged down. You might be slightly off the space of the mat. We can adjust later. Lower this right arm. It's like your fingers are reaching to tickle your right heel. And then you're going to take your left fingers over your right bicep. Find that outer crease of the elbow. Get a good grip there, maybe even a squeeze. We press down into the arms, heels, toes, blades of the feet, instep of both feet. We tuck and roll up the chain of the spine. Press down into the arms. Option here to find fingers interlace. You might walk the shoulders in underneath. And here what we could do is pick up all 10 toes. We drop the 10 toes. We pick up the heels. Press down into the fist. Drop the heels, release the bind, roll down, shoulder blades, mid-back, lower back. And then maybe you scurry to the middle of the mat. Your knees stay bent and your feet go wide. The arms come out to cactus. It's a little more intense in the heads of the shoulders. Palms up to sky. Sweep your knees to the right, turn your head to the left. Windscreen, wipe the knees. And then we alternate knees to left, head to right. And again, exhale. And let it just go floppy. Couple more here. Stirring the thigh bone in the hip socket. Rolling to the outer edge, the inner edge of both ankles. And then coming back to that neutral. From here, let's take the thighs into the chest. Take a little bit of a lift of your head. And I want you to think about that chin dropping down. We're going to mimic this pose to come into our fish pose. Now plant your feet down. Lift just enough that the backs of your hands can be sat on. So palms down, sit on the backs of the hands. Lengthen your legs and think of the inseam of your leggings zipped together. We're stretching over the tops of the feet. Point the toes. Now pick up the head and think of squeezing a peach, chin into chest. Look to your toes. Prop yourself up on your right elbow, left elbow. Pronounce the heart skyward. Open up the throat. Perhaps the crown of your head tips back. But we're not giving too much weight to the crown. We're really pressing into the elbows. Think of cracking a walnut between your shoulder blades. Stretch over the tops of the feet. If you want to here, you might even pick up the legs in this fish variation. It's not going to be for everyone, but I'm offering it out there. Lower your legs. And then press down into the arms. Pick up your chin. Look to your toes. Pull your toes back. Little calf stretch there. Yeah. Kind of spicy there. And then we're going to take the elbows from underneath us, roll off the hand. Yeah, both sides, and just give a little roll of the wrists. Perfect. Draw your thighs into your chest. We rock and roll. So after that, it's quite nice, a little massage to either side of the spine, and do as many as you need here just to build a little bit of momentum, and it might feel really nice. And no worries if that feels a little bruised in sensation on the spine. You can roll to one side, come up however you need. We're coming into Sukhasana, or easy seats. However, this nickname, it's not always easy for everyone. So my suggestion might be that you perch. I'll go sideways so you can see what I mean, on a brick. And then the ankles are a little lower than the hips, and it gives us this little pubic or pelvic tilt. The pubic bone tilts down, and we might get a little more space if this is a sticky area. Kneeling can work too. If you have two bricks, you could have bricks viced between the shins, and you're kneeling, and you get this lovely length through the spine. We interlace the fingers, make that basket, and bring the hands behind the head, and the elbows are going to go wide. Now exhale, seated cat-cow. We kiss the elbows together perhaps and tuck the chin into the chest. And we really try to round the back, get low, think bowing down. Inhale, reversing, so the chest opens and those elbows might go out of your eye line. And the shoulder blades squeeze, the throat opens up. Exhale, closing it down. Inhale. Exhale, 2 more. Inhale. Just moving in your own way through the spine, but not rushing that breath. Inhale. And then we're going to come to seated. So just bring your bricks out from underneath you, if they are in use. And we're going to bring the feet down about hips width distance, bend the knees. Bring your fingertips to face toward your seat. Your shoulders are away from your ears. You might like to walk the feet a little bit further in. Spread the 10 toes. We pick up the hips, pressing into the hands of the feet. Inhale. And maybe you're lifting those hips to knee height, to shoulder height. There's a breath. Exhale, lower that down. You can stick with 2 more of those, or you might lengthen your left leg, cross your right ankle over your left thigh, pulling these right toes back. We're in a little figure 4, and there's a deep external rotation of the right hip. You rebend that left foot. Now here, it might be that it doesn't really pick up and in as close as it did before. That's fine. You keep drawing these toes back, and you take your hands, fingertips toward your seat. Figure 4, reverse tabletop. We breathe in, open through the hip flexors. Stability-wise, a little more challenging. Press down into 10 fingers. Don't let some work harder than others. And then exhale, lower it down. For some of you, it might be walking that left foot a little bit away from you. You could even give yourself a little hug there. You might disarm the leg. And then we're going to take it to the other side. So lengthen your right, cross your left ankle over. Pull the left toes back, fingertips toward your seat. We scurry this right foot in. Press into your hands, your right foot. Inhale, lifting, lifting. Have a little gaze at your hips. Has one started to drop down? Yeah, or that way? Are they even? Think of scales. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Lower that down, quite strong on the shoulders there. And then we'll cross the legs and we'll come to tabletop. So we're coming to all fours. So probably a posture that we're pretty familiar with, and really plugging down through the knuckles of the fingers, pressing down into the tops of the feet. And we'll go for a cat-cow. Inhale, lift the heart, open the throat. Exhale, rounding through the back. If you want more, you tuck your toes under, you hover your knees. Inhale, keeping those knees really quiet so they're not sort of buckarooing the hips and the shoulders aren't waving forward and back. Shoulders are over the wrists. Inhale, knees are under the hips. Exhale. You can always come back to this version. We'll do one more. Inhale, exhale. Join your big toes together. Take your knees as wide as the mat. Encourage your hips back to your heels. Option 4, the arms to reach forward and the head to kiss down. You might give yourself a little self-assist there with the forehead to the brick. So our child's pose. We've done this on the back already. In for 2. Out for 2. In for 2. Out for 2. If your forehead is placed on a brick, take that kindly to the side, picking up the heart of the hand. So it's like a little teepee hand. The fingertips and the thumb tips are pressing down into the mat. Chest hangs low. We exhale to walk the hands all the way off the space of the mat to the right side. Think of isolating your breath to the back of the right rib. Breath in, find expansion. Breath out. Maybe the ribs are trying to knit closer together. Inhale, hands to center. Exhale, walking those hands all the way off to the right. The tongue might loosen in the mouth. Breath in, back of the left side. Breath out. Inhale, walk the hands back to center. Your drishti, your soft gaze, is to the top of the mat. And then we realign the knees under the hips. Bring the hands back underneath the shoulders there. And then just start to move the shoulders in tiny little circles, almost probably the size of a tennis ball, really. Just pressing down into each and every finger, both thumbs, the heart of the hand, the heel of both hands, and these might become slightly more indulgent, and then you go the other way. So working on that dexterity of the fingers and that resilience of the wrists, which of course build this chain that goes up to the shoulders. Great, make that your last circle. We're coming to a downward facing dog. I would walk your hands a little bit further forward, tuck your 10 toes, pick up your knees and look through the space of the legs there so your head is hanging heavy. Let's nod it up and down, think nodding dog in a yes. Just ensuring we're not wasting any of that precious energy by holding a knot at the base of the throat or lifting the shoulders up by the ears. And then we keep the head still. I want you to think about spreading your fingers, your toes, and working on building this really strong foundation. Working from the ground upwards, we press the floor away from us. And then you're starting to drop through your left heel and pick up your right heel. Starting to walk the dog. Hips stay moving up and back. Navel draws back to spine, shoulders roll away from ears, but all this time those feet are working and we might be stretching into the creases of the toes. For 2 and for 1. Legs go quiet here. Look through the gap of the arms, soft drishti in the direction we are moving. Soften your knees, walk your feet behind your wrists. We're coming to ragdoll or possibly utilizing these bricks, almost like boulders. They provide stability so that we can, in fact, pick up the heels just high enough that you could perhaps slide a sheet of paper underneath them. So there's this feeling of zipping up, navel scoops back to spine, that's our Iddha Bandha. We're then allowing the weight of the head and the chest to draw us down. Maybe we're softening the knees quite significantly. Weight in the toes rather than the heels. If you're okay here, you might hold opposite elbow, exploring that, and you might go for a little swing side to side. But as you can see, maybe those bricks might like to be moved out of the way. There's a few more breaths. Figure of 8 if you like. You can get pretty wild here. And then we'll take the hands down to the earth. Soften through your knees even more so. Start to restack your spine. So we're thinking of tucking the tailbone under, shoulders over the ribs. Head is the last thing to lift. Inhale, pick the shoulders up by the ears. Exhale, roll them back and down. 2 more. Inhale, lift the shoulders up by the ears. Exhale, roll them back and down. Last one, inhale. Exhale, back and down. From here, we go back to that bind. You're standing into your right leg. Right leg. You're at the top of the mat and you're taking the sole of your left foot to the inner thigh. This right arm goes down, palm holding to the thigh. This left arm is wrapping behind you. And again, we find that outer crease of the elbow, that large intestine 11, and we're taking this sort of hugging or squeezing of that bicep. So we stand here at the top of the mat, Vrikshasana, tree pose. Think tailbone elongating. Think energy down through the heel and a tiny micro bend through that right knee. Heart is strong. Chest is proud. Crown is lifted. We don't change the lower half of the body. Think navel and above. Those arms are going to give you a little hug, a squeeze. Chest stays proud. Now, your left foot moves from the inner thigh and your left ankle crosses over the right thigh. Pull the toes back, bend in the supporting right knee. Lower belly draws back, bending through that supporting right knee. Spreading your toes on that supporting foot. One more breath here. Now we float to Ardha Chandrasana. This left leg floats back. The arms are going to open wide. Now you can either do your floating variation here, or you could bring in a brick to that top right-hand corner of your mat. Think of left hand to hip, and it's going to facilitate this opening of the hip. For everyone, I'm encouraging you to pull those left toes back. So we're really thinking about the energetic intention through the left heel. Could you lift left arm? Think of spiraling your heart and your gaze up to those left fingers. But that's the cherry on top, and it doesn't have to be there today. 2 more breaths. Inhale. Exhale. Get longer in that undercarriage, the right side of you. 1 more breath. We step back, warrior 2. Bend into the front knee. Step back. Think ripping the mat in half. Bend into your front knee. Knee tracking over the ankle. For me, I like to shuffle this right heel a little bit further forward. Arms sweep open. Shoulders go down. And you set your drishti, middle finger. Inhale. Maybe you offer the heel to lift. Exhale, lower. Inhale. Exhale. This time, inhale. Straighten that front knee. Lower your left arm to thigh. Flip your front palm and reach forward, but getting longer through this underside of you. Press down into the blade of this back foot. Inhale. Exhale, we go back, reversing your triangle. Taking another breath here. Option for Gomukhasana arms, bending your right elbow, bending your left elbow, fingers intertwine, opening through right armpit. Think breathing from there. Think tiny micro bend in that front knee. 1 more, lifting ribs up and out of the waist. And then we turn to Virabhadrasana 1. Dropping into the back heel, right toes, tracking to the top of the mat. Lowering your right arm, holding your left hand to your right bicep. Breath in. Humble warrior, sliding right shoulder just inside that right knee. We lower the heart. We bow to something that is greater, that is beyond ourselves, that is larger than us. Keep pressing into that back foot. There's this tendency for that back left heel or the blade of the foot to peel off. Get long, get long. Exhale, hands frame that front foot there. You step back into your downward facing dog. However you get there is perfect. Tailbone lifts. Gaze sets. Option to stay here for 8 breaths. Option with me to undulate the spine forward into your high plank. Keeping those kneecaps lifted, I want you to think about the front hip bones drawing toward your eyes and then your 2 sit bones drawing back toward your heels. Could you rock the weight forward, bend the elbows, lower chaturanga, all the way to the belly. Hands under shoulders, soft tops of the feet, pick up the chest, inhale. We pick up those hands to make sure we're not relying on them. Arms squeeze in, hands drop down. Coming back, if you're in a down dog, you're going to meet us, knees wide, big toes together. Child's pose. Hands join, Anjali Mudra, pressing that left palm to right, right palm feeding back into the left. Squeeze your head with your arms, get low with your hips. Option to stay. Option to bend your elbows. Hug your head, feel the heat that you've cultivated, feel the temperature on your skin, feel the clothing on your skin. Stay present, stay here. In for 2, out for 2, in for 1, out for 1. Straighten the arms, palms flush down to the mat here. You're going to take your drishti, that soft but focused gaze, to the top of the mat through the gate of your arms. And then we pick up the hips, but we only keep them over the knees. So they're not going to dive forward into this sort of up dog shape. They stay over the knees. You walk your right hand top, right hand corner of mat, and left hand top, left hand corner of mat. And maybe you can glide your nose and your heart space down to the earth, coming into our back bend known as puppy pose. Options here. Little less intense would be stacking forearms and letting the head rest on that top arm. You're effectively lifting the floor closer to you. Other option, it could be that you bring your chest onto a couple of bricks, a little self-assist here. And again, you're sort of bringing the floor nearer to you. There's a little less dominance in the shoulders. Can we melt? Can we embrace? Can we embody? Back to tabletop, hands under the shoulders. A little bit of strength there to press yourself up. Take the bricks out of the way. We're coming back up to downward facing dog. Tuck your toes. Pick up your knees. Look through the gap in the legs. Right leg lifts. Inhale. Three-legged dog. Bend the top knee, open through that top hip and pull back your right toes. You might stay here, you might tap that right toe down, coming into your wild thing, opening up the hips through squeezing in the glutes. And this right arm wants to float and melt, offering your heart upward, grounding through your left hand. We come back to our three-legged dog. Inhale. Set the foot down. Look to the top of the mat. You might pick up the heels, bend the knees, and take a jump with a light landing. But you can walk, and however you get there is perfect. Sweep the arms up, drop the head down, press your knuckles up to the sky. A little bit more bite with this one, this variation of Uttanasana. You could revert back to your ragdoll arms, hands on bricks. Exhale, fingertips float down just in front of the toes. Stack your spine. And I would say while you're down here, so we're not switching our blood pressure too much, place your brick possibly for your Ardha Chandrasana, our balance. So you might like it top left hand corner. Ground into the four corners of the feet as you lift the head. Shrug the shoulders. Bend the knees. Shake the arms. And we go into our tree pose, Vrikshasana on the second side. So we're standing in the left leg. Left arm is down by the leg and the right foot goes to somewhere on the inner chain, of the leg. Right arm threads behind. Can you find? Squeeze of that inner crease of the elbow. Maybe you're hugging the hand around the bicep. We'll go for a little more lift through the crown of the head. Maybe you can draw those front ribs back. Drop the tailbone down. Nothing changes from the navel and below. Hug yourself, and if you can remember which way you hugged the first time, stack the other arm on top. Release right foot, recross the right ankle, pull those toes back, keep them active as we sink. We're here for 3, navel pulls back. Bending through that supporting left knee. Ankle working hard to stabilize you, calf muscle probably screaming. Release the leg. We float, possibly. You might think, oh, my brick's way too close to me. You might stay in your float. You might add in your brick. For some of you, maybe your hand goes down to the earth. Use what is around you. Option here to pick up the right arm. Pull those toes back. Stay active, stay strong. Notice where you're sending the breath and the energy. Maybe you glance up to that top right hand, but that is not for me today. We step back, warrior 2, step back with an intention to really commit to that wide stance. Bend into your front knee. Open up your arms, set your drishti, middle finger. Option to pick up, heel on the inhale, exhale. Inhale, pick it up, exhale. Inhale, straighten through the front knee, drop the back arm. Flip the front palm and reach all the way forward. Exhale, reverse triangle. Think about lifting up and out of the hips rather than dumping and collapsing in this right side and the lower back. Staying here, or go Mukhasana, arms bend the left elbow, bend the right elbow, maybe the fingertips meet. You're trying to stretch through that left side. Breathe into that left armpit, ground down through both feet, squeezing thighs. We release that down, warrior one. Hips facing top edge of the mat. Tailbone moving in the direction of the mat. Left arm lowers, find your grip, right hand to left bicep. Inhale, get long. Exhale, left shoulder dives just inside the left thigh. Humble warrior, draw the belly back. Bend into that front knee. Press into the back foot and lengthen through the crown of the head. Lots to think about. Legs are holding you, it's strong. One more breath here. Exhale, hands go down. Step it back, downward facing dog. Option for 8 breaths. Holding. Option to come forward into your high plank, to lower through your chaturanga dandasana. Inhale, maybe it's an up dog. Draw the inner seams of the leggings together. Exhale, rolling over the tops of the feet to find your downward facing dog. And we lift the left leg, 3-legged dog. I'm very aware of that plant there. So if you, like me, are practicing at home, be careful of pets. Be careful of walls, bookcases. We're bending that left knee, maybe having a little glance under that left armpit and pulling your left toes back. There's a few breaths here. You might go for wild thing, tap the toes down, pick up the hips, eat your necklace, open your left arm, press, 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 press. And then back to your 3-legged dog. Inhale, lower the left leg. Walking your feet behind your wrists, finding your Uttanasana. For me, I'm taking the bricks here, but it might not be the same for yourself. Head is heavy here. We come to our chair, bend the knees, reach the arms. From here, pick your heels up. You might need a little totter around there. Exhale, lower. Again, inhale, we lift. Exhale, we lower. Last one, inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. You're going to come to seated all the way down. Take one brick with you, and we're coming into armpit release pose. It isn't going to be for everyone, this. If you have perhaps a cork brick, they're a little less forgiving than the spongy foam bricks. So you could always take a throw over to soften the edges. I'm going to say to bring your left elbow down, bring your left head, your left hand to your head and your head to your hand. And we're taking a stacking of the right thigh over the left thigh. So nothing specific with the legs. If you've got 2 bricks, you could always take a brick between the 2 thighs if there's any dumping in the lower back, any tightness, soreness. But ideally, we're trying to really get the cove of the armpit over that brick, and we're melting down. We're really surrendering to the prop beneath us. Brilliant for lymphatic drainage. A little bit tender, perhaps at first. It takes a while for the body to really let go and acclimatize to this one. So if you're with me, then please stick with it, and it might be enjoyable. If you want more, you can let this arm come over the head. We've got a little more weight. You might take the arm long, land the head, and bring this arm over. Or you could have it in front of you, in your thigh. And we're going to take about 10 more breaths here, so trying to let go as much as you can. Armpit release pose. The lymph glands held a lot in the armpits, around the chest. It's really good for clearing these. So again, in the heat, we can feel quite sluggish, quite lethargic. So hopefully this brings a little more energy to the system and sort of clears the way. 2 more. 1 more. There's no easy way to exit this. My best bet for myself and you is to bring the hand down and pick yourself up. And then you can either roll onto the other side or swing the legs around, however you get there. Other armpit, elbow down, really getting into the cove of the armpit. My left thigh stacks over my right thigh. My head is in my right hand, and maybe I just take a few breaths with the arm resting on the leg, on the hip. If I wanted to, I could lift this arm and drape it over my head. I might think, starting to feel a little bit easy now. You go ahead and lengthen that right arm. And for me, it's feeling way more challenging on this side, and that's not an unusual experience, I would say. So you might find that one side is a little less bearable than the other. We're going to take another 7 breaths here. Slow breaths. 4. 1 more. And gently exiting that, slowly, slowly so. This brick is then taking to the mid-space of your mat, and we're coming into this shoulder opening pose. So armpit release into shoulder opening pose. You're reclining here to really target that space between your shoulder blades. It's almost like the wings of the shoulder blades are melting either side of your brick, and it will mean that the head slightly is lower. So my top tips with this is that as you're reclining, you sort of do a little test run, you sort of see where that lines up. Keep your feet plugged down to the earth. You could even hold behind the thighs there. And the feet being on the earth is just going to give your lower abdominals a little bit more support. Get yourself where you need to be. Then the arms come out to a T shape, and you could even go ahead and lengthen your legs. So breathing here. And we're going to end for Shavasana here. If this is not for you, or maybe you don't have a brick, you could try by rolling your throw and taking that between your 2 shoulder blades. But it doesn't have to be that this is where you end your practice. Corpse pose, lying onto the ground, may be more nourishing, more beneficial to you today. It could be lying on your side. It could be seated meditation. So tuning into what you need for your practice. Staying in the stillness. Just a few more breaths here. if you've got the luxury of time, feel free to let this video end, and you can stay here for a little bit longer. Maybe you cover yourself in a blanket as the body temperature will dramatically drop in that stillness. And if you're with me and you're in this shoulder opening pose, then start to wiggle your toes, move your fingers. And we're going to just bend the knees so that we've got that security from the soles of the feet down to the earth. You're going to feel a little more engagement to the lower abdominals as you pick up the head, and maybe you just guide the arms down by the sides of you. Again, no easy way to do this, really, just to bring yourself up away from the brick. And we come to seated. If you were fully lying down, you could hug your knees into your chest, come into that cradle shape, that tight ball shape. You might roll to either the left or the right side and take a few breaths. And then coming up to seated. Just finding the spine holding you there. It is strong, but not stiff. You can either drop your chin to your chest, Jalandhara Bandha, this awareness to this whispery breath, this sort of bowing of the head to the heart, closing the energy down. Maybe the mind just is encouraged to slow down. Maybe your eyes are closed, you stay in that little bubble that you've made for yourself. And 3 chimes now, breathing in on the chime, breathing out, part the lips, breathing in, part the lips, breathing in, part the lips. We'll join the hands to that Anjali mudra. And this also protects our heart space, protects our energy, so that we're holding some back for ourselves. We're also not taking on anybody else's energy. We are really in that containment. We are holding our own. And then we're going to bow by joining the thumbs to the third eye. Namaste.